see Larionov out there. You usually see Messier against him, and that's the way we start. Karutov in across the line for Makarov. Centering pass, Messier back-checking, gets it to Gretzky. Behind the back pass for Lemieux, but it's shot out of there by Fetisov. Now to Larionov. Larionov leaving it for Makarov. He's checked by Lemieux from behind. Now Krutov closing in. Gretzky checked him from behind. And Gretzky winds it around center. They score! Makarov all alone in front of the net. Set up by Krutov. And an early goal for the Soviets.
Doug Crossman at the side of the net let the puck come to him rather than going after the puck and found himself beaten to it. Gretzky clearing it around the net. Crossman is number 2 as Gretzky is decked. Crossman, well, the puck's already in the net, but Crossman had been beaten to the puck. Here's a better view of it. And you can see that Crossman is way out of position. The puck is stripped from him. And Makarov with the goal, and the Soviets lead.
Makarov, 7th of this tournament. So the green unit strikes early, and the Soviets lead. Here's Gretzky shooting it into center ice. Kropp couldn't knock it down. And going back to the Soviets, Lumatov, he leaves it there, and here's the new man in the lineup tonight, Igor Kravchuk, clearing it into center ice. Canada's Mario Lemieux dropping it back to Doug Crossman, number 2, who fires it out of there. Kravchuk, number 29, is 21 years of age. As a matter of fact, turned 21 today, cleared it in. Canada trying to get it out of there. Soviets hold it in. Here's a drive just wide by Lumatov. And Canada then clear it out of there. Fedotov, number 14, back for the Soviets. Into center to Kanyansky, number 13. Sidestep to check. Back comes Howardchuk, flipping it in. And Fedotov is there to clear it away. Bork tried to hold it in, couldn't. Soviets break out of there. In on the left side, Lomacka, number 23, centered it, but it comes all the way back into center ice. Here's Gusarov, number 3, flipping it. Bork knocks it down. Bork to Howardchuk. Dropping it back to Larry Murphy, number 8. Murphy slides it in. And the Soviets, Gusarov, checked by Howardchuk. Howardchuk trying to get it to Tocchet, but he was upended on the play. And the Soviets fire it out of there with Remo Bork of the Boston Bruins back to get it for Canada. To Dale Howardchuk, leaving it for Sutter, back to Howardchuk. Scooped in, and Milnikov caught it and held it, and we'll get a face-off.
Soviets leading 1-0.
Now Canada with a line of Doug Gilmour, Mario Lemieux, and Brent Sutter. Then Chinoff and Gilmour on the face-off. Gilmour gets it to Brent Sutter. Centered to Lemieux to Gilmour. Shoots, and Milnikov went to his knees to Rob Gilmour. Canada's best chance thus far. Soviets take possession and fire it out of there. Emilev into center ice, trying to get it ahead for Priakin. Fiora way out of the net to clear it, and he cleared it up over the glass and into the crowd, and then some bumping on the boards by Humelap and Sutter after the whistle.
Well, Brent Sutter raising a little hob with Don Koharski. 2 Stanley Cup winners for Sutter. He won't feel the pressure at all in a game of this moment. Of course, also part of the Canada Cup in 1984 and a big star for Canada in the 84 Canada Cup. Just 25 years of age with 7 seasons already in the NHL. Part of a very big family.
He has a few brothers across North America watching this one tonight. Let's see, there'd be Dwayne and Daryl in Chicago, Brian in St. Louis. Who am I missing? Rich, Ron, plus Mom and Dad and the rest of the Sutters from Viking, Alberta. Puck is cleared on the ice. Here's Doug Gilmour tipping it in. Lemieux went in after it, and Chinoff tied him up, and now Fetisov loses it. Rochefort couldn't get it, and Kasatonov feeds it into center ice for Emilev. Emilev dropped pass back, and Chinoff couldn't control it. Now Priakin can't center it. Priakin still after it. Gets it to number 8, Emilev. Back on the point. Shot and by Nemchinov is blocked, and Canada come to center. Gretzky firing it in. Back to get it, Kasatonov. That's Lemieux stealing it, but Nemchinov was there to bat it away. And the Soviets take over, and Fetisov cleared it into center ice. This is Doug Crossman back near his own blue line to Coffey. Back to Crossman. Crossman flips it near the line. Shot right back out by Kravchuk, the newcomer in the Soviet lineup tonight, and that's icing against the Soviets.
Well, there's the latest energy-saving device.
1-0, the Soviets leading. And Larionov from deep in the Soviet zone to center. 3-on-2 break led by Larionov to Makarov. Shoots. You're the save. And he bats that rebound away with his big goal stick. Back come Canada. Glenn Anderson, number 9. Anderson trying to drop it back. Stelnov intercepts. Right back he comes the other way to Karutov. And it's Crossman clearing it. Makarov held it in. Now he's slammed into the boards by Messier, and Crossman feeds it over, and Rochefort shot it to center. Back is Stelnov. Off the boards to Larionov. Back to Stelnov. Fired it out. Gartner tried to knock it down. Here's Krutov to Larionov. He's jacked in back the other way. Comes Howard Chuck. Cutting right in. Wide by about a foot. Big burst of speed by Howard Chuck. And Gusarov has it for the Soviets. He tried to clear it. Bork held it in. Shot. Deflected and just wide. And Karutov slaps it down the ice to relieve the pressure. That's icing against the Soviets.
Well, Howard Chuck with a very, very big chance. And you notice the march he got on the defenseman. You underrate Howard Chuck's speed a little bit sometimes. But this time he really got loose and he just beat the defenseman to the net and then just shot it a bit wide. Stole the puck at center ice. The defenseman now is turned around on the play. That's Stelnov there, and now he's got a big jump on him. And Howard Chuck probably had a little bit of room to get around the defenseman and get directly in front of the goal. But he thought he was going to be under a little more pressure than he, in fact, was. Shot quicker than he wanted to and missed by about 5 inches.
Mike Keenan must feel Howard Chuck is hot. He leaves him out there with Gretzky and Lemieux. And the Soviets clear it to center ice. Bork back to get it. To Gretzky. Over to Howard Chuck. Into Lemieux, who gets pulled down by Bekhoff. And Bekhoff will get the game's first penalty. And Canada will have a power play.
Good chance unfolding for Canada. Bekhoff just hauled his man down. The penalty had to be called.
Here's Coffey to Gretzky. Canada with the man advantage. Back to Coffey. Over onto the other point. Bork centered. It was too hard for Gretzky to knock down. And now the puck comes back into Canada's zone with Coffey back to get it. To Mark Messier. Leaving it there, and here is Bork to Coffey to Lemieux. Mario Lemieux trying to get it to Bork. Comes to Gretzky. Gretzky in the slot. Centered. Oh, and Messier just failed to tip it in. Now behind the net to Lemieux. Mario Lemieux, number 66, to Gretzky. Back to Coffey. Into Lemieux, but intercepted by Kasatonov. And the Soviets, shorthanded, come to center ice. Kasatonov doing a good job. Cleared it in, and Bork is back to get it. 1:08 left in the Soviets' penalty. Bork to Coffey. Soviets have scored a shorthanded goal in each of the 3 games against Canada, so keep that in mind. They shoot it in. Fetisov back to get it, firing it out of there. And Bork will have to chase back. 50 seconds left in the penalty. Bork just slaps it in. And Milnikov out of the goal, handed it right to Anderson. Now to Gretzky. Gretzky cutting in, trying to center. Stelnov broke it up. Now Gretzky out in front. In front, Goulet shot, rebound. Blocked out by Anderson, and Milnikov got a piece of that. And it's cleared away. Again, the puck artistry and the playmaking of Gretzky. Here is Coffey. Into Gretzky. Trying to hit Goulet in the slot. Soviets clear it. Knocked down by Hartsburg. To Gretzky. In front, Goulet upended in the slot. And Gusarov comes out of there. 2-on-1 Soviet break. Coffey trying to get back. Here's the shot. Off the goalpost. Oh, and Gusarov. Now they put the red light on.
I think it went in the net.
Gusarov indicated he had scored, but the red light did not come on. Then it did. And let's see what Koharski rules here.
They're signaling the face-off at center ice. I thought it went in the net and came out. But the light did not go on, and then it came on very briefly and went out again. Koharski has signaled there's a goal, and we've got a Well, let's take a look at it here now. Off the post, right there and right inside the net. So went all the way around and came back out. So you're right, it did hit a post, but then rattled around inside the cage before coming out.
2-0, the Soviets lead. Here's James Patrick trying to feed it to Doug Gilmore. Poked away by Noldekop. Sutter in to get it, and now Priyakin, number 22, into center to Chinop, number 12. And that's offside at the blue line. 2-0, the Soviets lead. That last scoring play, Gusarov unassisted at 7:04. Just after the Soviet player, 5 seconds after he had come back onto the ice from serving a penalty. So it wasn't a shorthanded goal. But an early jump for the Soviets, a 2-0 lead. Here's Fetisov clearing it into center ice. Messier knocks it down. Got it into the corner. Fetisov now to Makarov. To Larionov. Larionov leaving it for Karutov. He's checked by Anderson. And Anderson and Gardner try and wedge it out of there on the boards, but play is halted. And the faceoff will come at the Team Canada blue line.
Brought back in over the line with players' trap as we look at Glenn Anderson, bothered by a knee injury early. And that's maybe the first good body check of the period as he nails Karutov right up against the boards there. Puck came out over the line, came back in, and that produced the whistle. Shots on goal, Canada with 5, Soviet Union 3. Have scored on 2 of the 3.
Here's Makarov. Makarov beating Fetisov, closing in. Gucci scores! Fetisov from Makarov. It's 3-0 for the Soviets.
Oh, the mastery and the wizardry of Makarov, who hung onto that puck, and then just gave it right here. And the overloading of the zone with Fetisov coming in, he was at a clear path to the net, and it's 3-0. And Canada is in shock here at the 8-minute mark. The Soviets have just completely scored and everything. So Fetisov, on every chance that they have had, they have scored.
3-0, the Soviets lead. Canada in game 1 came from behind a 4-1 deficit to tie it, but it was much later. Here are the Soviets, who are off to the quick start, feeding to Kamensky. Kamensky, number 13, trying to move in. He gets knocked around. Now Beckhoff, checked by Howard-Chuck before he could shoot. Beckhoff again. To Stelno. Hartsburg trying to tie him up. Stelno still with it. Gets it in front. Pure the save. And then Lemieux cleared it. Gretzky dropping it back. And it's back to Gretzky. Gretzky for Canada. Leaves it for Lemieux. Here's Lemieux. To Gretzky. To Mario Lemieux. Lemieux for Canada. That long reach. Trying to go to a one-handed move. Loses it. And Semyonov had it for the moment. Canada still hold it in. Gretzky looks for Lemieux. Lemieux to Gretzky, and that's broken up. And now Lemieux shoots. Gretzky at the edge of the crease, couldn't tip it in. And the Soviets break out. But now back to the play, a penalty called for cross-checking against the Soviet Union. And Canada get a bit of a break there because the Soviets were breaking out 2-on-1.
I'm not sure a penalty was called on 99 Gretzky with the one side of the net. The other side of the net was knocked to the ice. Canada guilty of overhandling the puck a little bit. Gretzky, what a chance. Simply just, well, he was covered up very quickly right at the side of the net as Semyonov came over. And there's Gretzky going down under the checking. And Kravchuk, the young defenseman, picks up the minor. And Canada really has to score here.
3-0, the Soviets leading. Canada on the power play. They're 0 for 1 in this game tonight with the man advantage, and they're down by 3. Now Messier. Over to Murphy. Murphy moving in, and Canada goes offside at the Soviet blue line.
Mark Messier on the far side getting in a little too quickly. The penalty to Kravchuk at 9-10 for cross-checking. Look at Mark Messier. What a first period he had the other night. Set the tone of the game with his hitting, speed. And while he seemed to slowly run out of steam, he really picked up his own teammates. See See him on the bench. He's a clear leader, not only the Edmonton Oilers, but Team Canada as well.
Canada with the man advantage. Bourque and Murphy, the point men, with Anderson, Goulet, and Tocchet up front. Puck dumped in by Bourque. Now Anderson digs in against Fetisov. Makarov there to clear it. Knocked down by Canada. Here's Murphy. Shoots, Mielnikov the same rebound. Tocchet scores! Rick Tocchet!
Well, they got him in front of the net. This time there was no finesse at all. Murphy again gets it in the slot. This time he elected to shoot. It got behind Molnikov, and Tocchet, trailing on the play, picked up the loose puck. I thought that Team Canada was guilty of overhandling the puck a lot. Just get the shot, go in and look for rebounds. That's the way you play the game over here. And Tocchet was there, got the rebound, and Canada's got a very important goal on a power play.
Rick Tocchet gets the goal. His third of this series.
Assisted by number 16,
Goulet will get an assist, as will Murphy. Here's Canada with Murphy leading the attack, trying to get it to Anderson, broken up, and Homatov, number 15. Homatov into center ice, gets it to Bekov, number 27. Now to Homatov, back to Bekov. He's upended by Sutter, and Brent Sutter will get a penalty here. And now Canada will be shorthanded, holding against Sutter.
Canada's really got the edge in terms of offense. They just haven't been able to get Molnikov. 10-5 shots on goal right now for Team Canada.
But 3-1 for the Soviets. Canada able to clear it out of there. Fedotov back to get it into a zone. Now dropping it back to Fedotov again as Kamensky gave it to him. Return to Kamensky, number 13. To Bekov, number 27. To Homatov, number 15. Now to Fedotov, and his pass across to Gusarov. Tipped away by Messier. Gusarov over to Bekov. Drops it. Homatov checked in. Here's Gilmore for Canada. Gartner shoots right on. Glove save Mielnikov as Gilmore put Gartner in on the right side. Back comes Bekov to Homatov. Homatov around Rochefort moving in. Gilmore trying to tie him up. Now to Fetisov at the point. Back on the boards. Soviets with the power play. Behind the net. Put right through the crease, and Kasatonov missed it at the edge of the crease, and now Homatov down on the ice and shaken up, and that's why play has been halted.
Rather desperate situation for Team Canada, as Gartner had been playing that whole sequence without his stick. His stick lying broken down on the ice. Homatov went down to the side of the net with that little shot, which was something more than just a little shot. Want to get in front of the net. They're prepared to pay the price a little bit. So Homatov goes to the bench. 7-season veteran. And his third Canada Cup. Like Bekov, very small and shifty, but quite a hockey player.
They call him the Soviet rat, huh? I know the...
We never told him.
I know the hit was a little illegal, but the fall was rather dramatic as well.
Well, you see, Bill Barber played. They learned a few things.
3-1, Soviets leading. 57 seconds left in Canada's penalty. Kasatonov back to get it. To Kurutov. Into Larionov, and that play is offside at the Soviet blue line.
Good check at the line. Kurutov took a good shot. This is a good, clean hit. This is what hockey's about. Boom. Two tough guys, because Kurutov, he'll take those checks and come right back at you, but so will Messier.
Drain number 11. He is strong.
The guy was on his way back to his feet. The whistle went on the offside.
Still 44 seconds left in Canada's penalty to Sutter. Messier out there against Larionov on this face-off. And those two fellas have got to know each other very well during this 1987 Canada Cup. And Larionov just gets to know Messier a little bit better as he gives him a jab from the face-off. Bourque trying to clear it, but Tisov held it in. Got blocked by Bourque to Anderson. Anderson tied up by Fetisov. Now knocked away from Anderson. And Canada having to drop back with Larry Murphy. Murphy loses to Makarov, but as soon as Makarov touched the puck, it was called on a delayed offside. 21 seconds left in the penalty. Hartsburg for Canada. Clears it away. Gilmore and Gartner are up front, with Rochefort and Hartsburg on defense. Here's Gartner trying to center. Intercepted by Stelnov. Now to Samak, number 18. Samak shot off of Hartsburg. Rochefort beats Semyonov to it, clearing it. There's Kropchuk pinching in. To Semyonov. Now Lomakin back of the net with Samak. Samak trying to center. To Lomakin. Back to Stelnov. Shooting, that's just wide. Bounced in front, and Gilmore couldn't get it out of there. Semyonov held it in. Lomakin has it, but now Brent Sutter out of the penalty box. Canada back at full strength. And here's Sutter trying to break away. Sutter gets knocked down. Gretzky follows up. Cleared it in. Stelnov. Bumped by Gretzky. Stelnov flipping it. And into center ice. Samak loses, and here's Howardchuk trying to get it to Lemieux. Samak to Lomakin, and Coffey took it away from him. Trying to get it to Gretzky. Lomakin intercepts. And the Soviets with Kropchuk shoot it into Canada's zone. Muir clears it out. Here's Lemieux. Into Howardchuk. Gusarov back together. Clearing it out onto the boards. Priakin shoots it to center. Crossman. Over for Coffey. Now to Gretzky. Ahead on the wing for Howardchuk. And that's intercepted by Priakin. Canada again in control. Stick handling in neatly. It's Howardchuk to Lemieux, but offside is the play at the Soviet blue line.
They're up for it here in Hamilton, Ontario. Really enjoying an absolute sellout. They had a big lineup here at the Cops Coliseum yesterday morning. The final tickets were gobbled up in very short order, and the scalpers have been having a field day ever since.
Here's Team Canada down 3-1. Michel Goulet firing it in. And Fetisov back together. Fetisov to Bekov. Now to Kamensky. Kamensky upended, but clears it to Team Canada's line. Coffey fired it back out. Here's Kamensky. Over to Homatap, number 15. He just jumps it in. Murphy back for Canada. Murphy missing Coffey with a pass. Here's Bekov to Homatap. Homatap flips it in. Now Muir giving it to Gretzky. Winding it around under the boards. Fetisov pinching in. Fetisov centered, loose in front. Canada come up with it, and here's Lemieux to Gretzky. Gretzky with Lemieux. Upended on the play as Gretzky, and Bekov has it. Now Prop holding it in. Kasatonov back together. Right in front of his own goal to Fetisov. And the Soviet veteran defenseman Fetisov to Makarov to Bekov. Back to Makarov, right in. Muir came out and made a big save. As Makarov was right in at the doorstep. Now a pass to Tocchet, misses him. Kasatonov back together. Almost stolen by Canada on the play as Prop got his stick on it. Now here's Bourque from center ice firing it in. Back to Stelnov. Into Portek is Tocchet. Rick Tocchet. Gets some help from Brent Sutter out in front. They score! Brian Prop hits it in.
I think it may have gone off his skate. It was fired across the goal mouth. Well, it was a bad start for Canada, but they're back in it. Prop is on the goal side at this side of the net. Here's a closer view. Prop is number 26, looks to the right of the net. Now he moves into position. Out comes Sutter. Throws it across. Don't get cute. That's the story of the 2 goals for Team Canada. All they've done, Tocchet again with a great job forechecking, produced the puck. And Prop gets credit for the goal.
Brian drop at 15:23 here in the first period. The Canada Soviets lead to 3-2. Taka gets an assist. As of course does Brent Sutter. 15:23 the time. Soviets lead has been cut to 3-2. Here's James Patrick. In across the line to Messier to Gardner. Milnikov a save, and Gusarov clears it to Lomakin, who shot at the center. Patrick giving it to Messier. Fired in. Going back, big Gusarov takes a hit from Gardner on the play. And now Semyonov at center. Into Semak. Semak trying to move in, does, shoots. Save by Fuhr on Semak. And then he smothered it.
Mike Gardner on a delayed whistle laid the check of the game. Right here as he just leveled. Well, he didn't level him, but he sure came up against the boards on Gusarov. Was a pretty solid guy.
Imchinov on a face-off against Brent Sutter. Deep in Canada's zone. 4:07 left in the period. But Tisop at the point. Skate save by Fuhr, and then the rebound is just poked away. Ryakin couldn't get it in front, and here's Brent Sutter to Bork. Now tipped by Hartsburg and fired in by Tocchet. Tocchet has scored for Canada and set up another. Here's Tocchet with a shot wide of the net. Bork flipping it in. And he flipped it up over the boards at the Soviet bench. So some of the grinders, such as Rick Tocchet, playing hurt but coming through big for Canada.
Well, I don't know who got the worst of this, but Sutter and Tocchet. I think Tocchet probably took the brunt of that check, which was originally intended for Kasatonov back there. Tocchet coming to the bench to shake it off a little bit. There's Tocchet there. Tocchet and Sutter just arriving at the bench. Boy, that Tocchet for a guy who's supposed to have a tender knee is really doing it.
Play just underway. Canada shooting it in. Back to get it. Here's Lemieux stealing it in front to Anderson as Lemieux beat Kravchuk to the puck. Now Anderson. Side of the net to Lemieux. And Milnikov came out and cleared it. Gretzky to Murphy. Murphy shoots up high into the crowd. Murphy. Wayne and Mario show starting to gear up.
Murphy had to do that all over again. He would have wished that the puck had come to the stick flat. I think he had a bouncing, rolling puck. He had to cradle first and then tee it up. And then, of course, the defenseman was able to move over.
Talking about Gretzky, or as we look at Murphy, talking about Gretzky and Lemieux, who now leave the ice. I guess you could say Gretzky loads the gun and Mario pulls the trigger.
That's about it. It probably is the best way to describe it.
Here's Canada on the face-off. Patrick firing it around, over to pick it up. Gusarov out to Makarov. Leaving it there for Fedotov, number 14. Marianov cleared it in, but it's offside as Kurutov was in ahead of the play.
Shots on goal continue to be 2-1 favor Canada. 16-8 now. Canada with a total of 16 shots already in this game with 2:57 remaining in the first period. Gretzky, the captain.
No, two different times, Ron, I've seen Wayne Gretzky get 5 goals in a game. I think the best game I've ever seen him play was the other night. He didn't have a goal. He had 5 assists and was all over the place.
5 straight assists. There's a high stick. Makarov on, and an inadvertent one on that. When Anderson was turning at the boards, and puck seemed to, you can see Makarov's reaction. Stick seemed to ride up on the stick of Anderson. Cut him across the face. And there's going to be a high sticking call. Makarov. Good call. Now here it is. They're still responsible for your stick. And if it gets up above the shoulders, then you have to pay the price, no matter whether it's accidental or not. Well, Canada goes on the power play.
Canada 1 for 2 with the man advantage in this game. Canada's 10th power play goal of the Canada Cup. So Canada with Lemieux, Messier, and Gretzky up front. Coffey and Bork, the point men. Here's Coffey to Messier. Leaving it for Lemieux. He left it there for Messier. Into Lemieux, back of the net to Gretzky. the point to Bork, and then broken up by Larionov and tipped out to center. Bork has to hustle back. 2:20 left in the first period. 3-2 Soviets. Bork to Messier. Back to Bork. Ahead to Gretzky, and he just tips it in. Now Lemieux behind the goal. Krutov couldn't get it. Lemieux back to Bork. Around to the other side to Gretzky. Trying to tip it to Messier. And the Soviets get it. Poppy held it in. His shot wide. Here's Lemieux. To Bork, to Coffey. Over to Gretzky. Back to Coffey. Other side to Bork. Shot blocked by Bekov. Bork with 49 seconds left in the penalty to Coffey. Stick save, Mildekov. Gretzky to Coffey. Over to Lemieux. Couldn't handle a pass to Messier, who lets it go to Gretzky. On the point to Bork. Over to Coffey. Now to Bork with 30 seconds left in the penalty. Back to Coffey. Over to Gretzky. Soviets playing that box, side of the net to Messier. Back to Gretzky. Now to Coffey. Shooting. Milnikov save. And Mario Lemieux couldn't get the rebound. Now he does. To Messier. Messier shoots from a bad angle. Kasatonov blocked that. We're in the final minute of the period. 4 seconds left in the penalty. Gretzky to Coffey. Over to Bork. Penalized player back on. Bork lets the shot go. Blocked. And Krutov cleared it. Now Bork a shot. Gretzky deflects. Off the goal post with that one. And the Soviets, Makarov clearing the center. Bork back to get it. Bork loses. Homatov in the clear. Scores! Homatov on a breakaway. And the Soviets at a late goal take a 4-2 lead here in the first period.
Well, we got back to the problem that I think that Team Canada was in the early stages of the period. They tried to get too cute. And here's Homatov all alone, and nearly a great save by Grant Fuhr, but it trickled over the line. Puck was just stripped away, as falling on the play was Bork, and Homatov had the clear path. But going back to the power play, it's almost like when you get Gretzky and Messier and also Lemieux out there, they want to score the perfect goal. Take a look at the 2 goals that have been scored for Team Canada tonight. It's been on sheer muscle and throw it in front of the net and bang it into the net. Now, we've had Gretzky and Lemieux score great goals in this tournament, but they were almost like they were looking for the perfect goal, and they certainly didn't get it because the Soviets had played the box perfectly.
Now Canada down by 2 again. 17 seconds left in the period. Prop in there digging on the board. Soviets able to clear it, and Rochefort has to go back. Rochefort just scooping it into center ice. And it goes up over the boards at the Team Canada bench with 4 seconds left in the first period. Homatov unassisted, 1932, the time of that goal.
Well, we've got one of those games again, and don't go away because we've seen leads before disintegrate and go away. And the Soviets had their 3-0 lead reduced to 3-2.
There's a long shot that Milnikov handles, and he heads to the locker room with his team leading 4-2. And immediately Canada clear the puck into the Soviet zone. Makarov is there, number 24. Back he comes, trying to go around Patrick. Tipped away by Canada, and Fuhr away out of the net to clear that. Here's Fetisov trying to hold it in. And again, it's Rochefort with a lead pass to Messier. Kasatonov and Messier. There's Messier trying to center, was tipped away, and Kasatonov gives it to Makarov, who speeds in on left wing. Patrick takes him out of the play. Gartner cleared it. Here's Krutov centering back. Larionov to Fetisov. Stick save Fuhr on Fetisov. Fetisov still with it for the Soviets. Got it in front, batted away by Rochefort. Now Patrick, number 6 from the New York Rangers, leaving it for Rochefort. Up the middle to Gartner, tipped in, and shot right back out by number 29, Kravchuk. Into center ice. Here's Karutov moving in. Hartsburg dives to break it up. Now drops back, and Kropchuk is checked by Krupp. Gretzky breaks away with Tocchet. 2-on-1. Gretzky to Tocchet. Banged on it from about 20 feet out. Now Krupp after the loose puck. And it's Homatov breaking out of there. Homatov, number 15, bumped off the puck. Krupp drops it back. Coffey clearing one. And Kropchuk goes back to try and clear it and does. Bekoff. Now it's called an offside at the Soviet blue line, and that's the way the second period begins.
There's Paul Coffey, been very strong throughout this tournament. Again, his speed is so much a part of his game. The two-time Norris Trophy winner. Quite often he is paired with fellows who have controlled the Norris Trophy the last 3 years. Of course, Ray Bourque won it in 1987.
Canada down by 4-2. Coffey leading it for Greg Hartsburg. Lifted to center. Prop is checked. Now Coffey picks it up. Canada playing catch-up. Coffey to Gretzky, knocked away from him. And here's Semak beating one to Bekoff. Moves in, shoots. Fjord just got his glove on it. Rebound, Bekoff a shot. Fjord stops that and cleared it away. And Tocchet feeds Gretzky. That's knocked away. Kamensky now for the Soviets, firing it back in. Coffey back to pick it up. Paul Coffey leads a 4-man Canada rush. Fedotov there to clear it. Coffey holding his ground on the boards against Fedotov. Gretzky comes in to try and pry it loose, and finally it's held for a faceoff. Some interesting strategy here by Mike Keenan as the second period begins. He's split up Gretzky and Lemieux. And Lemieux is now out there with Sutter and Goulet. Semyonov against Lemieux on the faceoff. And the Soviets break out of there. Lomakin, number 23, against Bourque. Bourque rides him out of the play. Bourque clearing it up to Michel Goulet. Got the center. Gusarov over to Fedotov. Out of Semyonov, number 30. Fires it in. Semak in after it. Semak to Lomakin. Shot off a skate wide. Here's Semyonov. He's checked, and here's Lemieux. Has Goulet and Sutter with it. Broken up. Sutter the trailer. Centered it, but shot away by Gusarov for the Soviets. Fjord scooping it up on the boards to Murphy. Murphy shot at the center. Fetisov intercepts there. And gives it to number 8, Kumalev. At center now to Fetisov. Upended by Bourque on the play. Priakin into the corner, but Fetisov cleared it around. Kasatonov to Priakin. Brent Sutter ties him up, and Larry Murphy has it. He gives it to Bourque. Back on the wing. Sutter shot at the center. Intercepted by Priakin. Bourque trying to ride him up. Priakin and Bourque. Now Nimchinov knocked down back to the net by Howard Juck. Here's Kovalev trying to center. Nimchinov to Priakin. And he skated off, and Gretzky trying to chip it up. Soviets hold it in. Here comes Gretzky. Neat move. Gretzky looking to make a play. Gretzky still with it. Checked from behind by Kovalev, who was able to shoot it out of there. And going back is Hartsburg. To Coffey, into center ice to Gilmore, but Karutov intercepts. He drops it back to Kasatonov. Fired up the middle, and here is Larionov. Hartsburg breaks that up. Beating Anderson to Messier. Back to Anderson. Kasatonov cleared it. Messier to Anderson. Back on the boards, Karutov. Has Larionov and Makarov with him, a 3-on-3 break. Pass to Makarov, flipped in front. Karutov was there, but couldn't make the deflection. Anderson for Canada. Got it outside the line, carried back in offside by the Soviets.
It would appear that Mike Gardner's assignment is Sergei Makarov. Now take a look at this little play with the knee. Now, Makarov got up and made a play right after that, but he took him out of the play long enough that he wasn't clear when he got up. He wound up with the puck, shot the puck wide of the net.
Now Lemieux out there with Prop and Tocchet for Canada. Here's Rochefort flipping it into center ice. And the newcomer Kropchuk is there to shoot it back up. Now controlled by Stelnov, number 4. Ahead onto the wing. Here's Kamensky moving in, trying to center to Homatop. Broken up, and Canada's Crossman cleared it. Prop sliding it all the way down the ice. And it's grabbed by Milnikov. As then Stelnov and Lemieux bump into each other after the whistle.
Well, Coffey had his problems over a period of time with his skates, adjusting them once again. 4-2, the Soviets leading Canada. I guess it's more his shin guard than his skates. Last year, he had a dreadful time of it through the first part of the season. Just couldn't find a pair of skates that fit him properly. Was in a slump. Got over that, and of course finished strongly and led a team to a Stanley Cup.
Now Canada with a forward line of Howard Chuck, Goulet, and James Patrick up front. Normally a defenseman. Rochefort and Crossman on defense. Howard Chuck gets the draw. Shot by Rochefort, deflects just wide. Milnikov took no chance as it came off the backboards and just smothered it.
Well, one thing when you've got a defenseman up on your forward line in a face-off in the offensive zone, he's the kind of guy who can go right into that goal mouth area. He's used to the traffic in there, and he has to face that kind of traffic defending his own zone. There's a young player who's shown a lot of promise in this tournament. Anatoly Fedotov. Be around for a long time. Plays for Moscow Dynamo.
He's 21 years of age. I think Tikhonov is intense. Here's a drive by Canada. Rochefort let it go. Milnikov making the stop back of the net. Gusarov trying to clear it out of there. And it's carried out by Lomakin, number 23. Crossman checked him. Now Fedotov wide, but that shot. And Rochefort takes Homatop out of the play with a tough check. Canada can't get it out. Semyonov holding it in. Well wide with that shot. Now cleared in by Fedotov, and Rochefort has it for Canada. Rochefort up the middle to Howard Chuck. He's upended, and he's hurt as Gusarov caught him right at center ice. And Howard Chuck is shaken up. And now Gusarov goes down. I didn't see what happened to him.
Dale Hawerchuk very upset at the hit he took from Gusarov in the center ice zone. Then Gusarov was nailed by Rochefort afterwards as a retaliatory measure. Koharski didn't see that. He was looking at the original incident, and this is why Fetisov is arguing. Watch to the left of your screen here. You'll see in the center ice zone, Hawerchuk is kneed perhaps by Gusarov. And as Gusarov went down to defend in his own zone, he was nailed by Rochefort and went down himself. There's Gusarov. Another good young defenseman of this team, 23 years of age.
No penalties on either play. Soviets 4, Canada 2. Soviets led 3-1 after the first period of game 1. Made it 4-1. Canada came back eventually to tie it. Game 2, Canada led 3-1 after 1, and the Soviets came back to tie it. The 2 goals with these teams, differential after 1 period, not proving to be that much. Here's Hartsburg decking Himmelap with a check as he caught him with his head down. Now Priakin racing in. Canada starting to throw their weight around, and it's shot out by Tocchet down the ice. Konstantinov going back together. And it's icing called against Canada.
Well, a couple of great hits. Hartsburg was the one that started it. And Hartsburg in a foul mood with the scoreboard reading 4-2. Somebody said something to him, but he good clean hit in the center ice zone. And then a couple of hits down in the Team Canada zone. Here it comes right to your screen. He nailed him, stood him straight up, sat him straight down. And they're going to have to do a little more of that. Looks like they're getting a little mad, and I think probably that may be the best thing that could happen to Team Canada. They played the first period a little less than total enthusiasm.
Hit, but they better stay out of the penalty box.
That's right. Keep them clean. Keep the sticks down.
Here's Crossman for Canada to Gartner. He couldn't get it out. Karutov has it for the Soviets. Over to Makarov. Rockford bumps him hard. And Canada then clear it out of there. Anderson sliding it to center ice. Now Fetisov passing it up on the wing to Karutov. Rochefort back to get it. Messier, Anderson, and Gartner up front. Here's Messier leaving it for Anderson. He's checked, and Makarov breaks away with only Rochefort back. He has Karutov with him to Karutov. Shoots, hole cure. Just got a piece of that, and it trickled off to the corner. And Crossman has it for Canada. Delno pinching in. Now Messier. Messier loses. Makarov trying to carry back in. Crossman tying it up. And a jam up in the corner. Rochefort coming up with it. Flips it out. It hits Makarov as he was going to the bench. Now Crossman cleared once. Delno jammed in there by Anderson. And it's held. And we got a stoppage in play.
On the right there is Larionov. On the left was Karutov, but it's Makarov who paved the way for this play. And the shot by Karutov just trickled through and behind. Boy, they have been dangerous, especially in this game. Dan Makarov, he is having a great hockey game.
When they get a scoring chance, it's a dandy. They seem to be wide open. And that's why the shots on goal don't mean very much. But chances are good. Beckhoff flipping it in. Muir there to clear it. Lemieux couldn't get it. Stelno held it in. Bork blocked his shot. Flips it up the middle. And it's shot back in by the Soviets. Now Lemieux and Gretzky are out on the forward line back together with Prop, the other member of that trio. Here comes Murphy into Lemieux. Lemieux cutting in. Lemieux trying to center. Does to Bork. Bork got it in front. Gretzky in front. And Lemieux was upended. And there'll be a penalty to Beckhoff as he tripped Lemieux at the side of the net. And a Canada power play coming right up. Beckhoff to the penalty box.
Great chance here. Watch Gretzky. Here is the puck rolling loose. Gretzky gets a little bit of a piece of it, rolls it. I don't know how he got that pass away, and then Beckhoff just nailed Lemieux in the goal mouth area. And that drew the tripping penalty. It's the second time that Lemieux has drawn a penalty in this game. I say drawn a penalty. His check has taken a penalty trying to handle him. But 8:24, Canada goes on the power play, and the crowd here is starting to pick it up once again.
Gretzky up front with Lemieux and Tocchet. Murphy and Bork will be the point men. Here's Messier to, or at least Gretzky to Tocchet. Couldn't get a stick on it. Gretzky again. Tries to center. Lemieux was open but fanned on it. And the Soviets come back, led by Lomakin. 2-on-2 break. Murphy there to use the poke check. And ties up Lomakin. And Lomakin trying to freeze it. Murphy gets it loose. Larry Murphy. Fires it in. Gretzky comes in. It comes to Murphy. Back to Bork. Into Lemieux. Soviets go into that box. They drop it to Bork. A drive and a save by Milnikov. And he held it.
Big thing about this line, the way they've got it now with Lemieux and Gretzky, they've added Tocchet to the line. And Tocchet's the man. He's the designated slot man. He's in there to cause problems for Milnikov. Good play here, and this is the difference. They're getting the shot away now with Tocchet right in front of the net. Gretzky swooping in, looking for any kind of a rebound himself. He's a very important guy in this game so far, Rick Tocchet. He's played a lot of roles, but most of them are the physical roles. And he's been very much responsible for the 2 goals that Canada has. Points on both of them.
Tocchet from Scarborough, Ontario, a key member of the Philadelphia Flyers. 1:20 left in the penalty. Now Gretzky over to question the referee, Koharski, about something. Soviets wrong to me tonight when they're shorthanded are playing the box and not playing as aggressively in a shorthanded situation as they did earlier.
They don't want to let them get too much of that game in close.
Here's Bork for Canada. Into Lemieux. Back to Bork. Over onto the wing to Murphy. Centered. Tipped away by Makarov. Lemieux. Back of the net to Gretzky. In front to Murphy. Shoots. He scores!
play with it, shoot it. What happened was the defense got spread out here. Tocchet, they started worrying about Tocchet at the side of the net. Murphy wound up getting the puck at the side. As the defense was going the wrong way, on the short side, he put it in, but whether that shot had been blocked or not, it certainly paved the way for a good rebound. And as it was, it found the hole, and Canada trails by just a goal.
Another great setup by Gretzky as Murphy gets his first of this Canada Cup. Comes with 10:40 left in the second period.
The other point goes to Mario Lemieux.
So Gretzky and Lemieux get the assist. Canada within one of the Soviets. Here's Priyakin coming in. Toffee trying to take him out. Back to get it. Here's Tocchet. Feeds it to Gretzky. Delnov in to tie him up. And now Gretzky gets it to Coffey. Out for Tocchet, but intercepted and shot back in by the Soviets. Coffey back for Canada. Coffey being checked by Priyakin, and Priyakin dumps it in. And now Propp has to go back for Canada. Out on left wing to Gretzky. Over for Hartsburg, off the boards for Propp. Brian Propp, number 26, shooting it in. Going back to get it, Kravchuk. Gretzky stole it, centered, Kamensky intercepts. Soviets come back. Number 13, Kamensky. Lets it go, and that's high off the glass. Right back the other way, Canada with Gretzky. The copy to Propp, has Sutter with him. Here's the shot, high and over the glove of Milnicott. Propp behind the net, trying to get it to Sutter. Brent Sutter for Canada. Beckhoff comes up with it. Now to Homatov. Homatov got it to the line. Rochefort held it in, and Gusarov has it for the Soviets. To Homatov, number 15. Flipped in, cleared out by Crossman. Now Fedotov trying to set up Kamensky. Back comes Crossman for Canada, trying to beat it up to Goulet. Goulet on the left wing boards. Slides it around. Into the corner goes Crossman. Now to Howardchuk. Yale Howardchuk, center to shot. They score! Brent Sutter ties this game up.
The key to this is look at the traffic in front of the net. Out comes the pass. Everybody going for the net, and Sutter with a great shot off the roof. Howardchuk is getting it out in front. Sutter moving in. Glove side. Couldn't put it in a better spot.
Canada comes back to tie it at 4-4. The Soviets at one time led 3-0.
Howardchuk and Crossman will draw assists on this. Here's Howardchuk out in front. Again, that great shot. The feeling is glove side high on Milnikov. You can beat him. He doesn't have a good glove hand.
Brent Sutter's first goal of the tournament. Howardchuk and Crossman the assist. 11:06 the time. Canada 4, the Soviets 4.
Oh, the crowd's starting to take over, too. You can hear them start to build with the Murphy goal. Now they're really going. We've got the coach up on top of the bench.
Canada 4, the Soviets 4, and here we go with Bourque flipping it in for Canada. Racing in was Sutter, but it was whistled down on an offside or a high sticking call, I believe, ruling that the Soviets had knocked the puck down with a high stick.
Canada with a 7-4 shots on goal edge in this period, but again, the shots on goal, as Dan mentioned, not a good statistic in this particular game because the Soviets have had so many good scoring, clean scoring chances. They scored 3 goals on their first 4 shots, and each of them was a good, clean scoring chance.
Now Gilmore, Lemieux, and Sutter, the Canada forward line. Breaking out is Womakin for the Soviets. Poke check by Bourque, and Lemieux right back for Canada. Mario Lemieux trying to leave it there, knocked down, and Semyonov right back the other way for the Soviets. Lemieux gets up limping. Now Gilmore back of the goal. Gilmore trying to clear it out, and now we're going to get a penalty. Back of the play is Lemieux and Kasatonov were making threatening glances at each other.
All right, here's the play. Now there's a slash in here, but watch the skate of Kasatonov. And there's the slash across the back of the leg. But I don't think Lemieux appreciated that skate very much. May have been inadvertent, but it certainly was an area where it could have caused a lot of damage.
So the Soviets in this 4-4 game with a man advantage. Slashing against Lemieux. 8:26 left in the second period. Soviets are 0 for 1 with the man advantage tonight. They send out the green unit. Larionov, Makarov, and Kurutov with Fetisov and Kasatonov on defense. Canada with Messier and Gartner up front. Soviets with the man advantage. Rochefort from the faceoff. Tries to clear it out. Pinching in. Fetisov to Larionov. Larionov to Makarov. Kicks it to Kurutov, and Rochefort checks in. Kasatonov held it in. Over onto the board to Larionov. Back to Kasatonov. Return to Larionov. Now to Fetisov. Shooting. Blocked by Gartner. Fetisov to Kurutov, and Gartner breaks it up again. And then cleared at the center ice. Couple of key plays defensively by Mike Gartner. Here's Kurutov. To Fetisov. Now to Larionov. Larionov flips it in. Kurutov cuts in. Big save, pure rebound. And that's chopped away by Crossman for Canada. Larionov held it in. His shot blocked by Messier, and Rochefort shoots it away. And a minute left in the penalty, and an interference call as Gartner gets upended. And an interference call coming up here to the Soviets. And to Larionov.
Watch the left-hand side of the screen on the replay, and you'll see Gartner, number 12 for Canada, knocked down right in the center ice zone as the puck was cleared up ice. Larionov. That means that Canada, at the end of the Lemieux penalty, will have a minute and 2 seconds, barring further penalties. They'll have a minute and 2 seconds of power play. Here's Kurutov. Every time you see these guys, you got to get up on the edge of your seat. What a save that was. And then Kasatonov moving quickly in for the rebound, but he was forced into the corner.
Kurutov scored a goal in game 2 in a very similar situation. Each team a man short, copied. Anderson deflected it. Milnikov made the save and then smothers it. 53 seconds left in Lemieux's penalty. 1:56 left in Larionov's penalty for the Soviets.
What a deflection there by Anderson. Taking that shot from the point by Coffey, and all he did was get the heel of his stick on it and steer it right into the padding of Milnikov.
Gretzky getting Coffey positioned properly. Gretzky against Bekov on the faceoff. Gretzky gets it into the corner. Gets help from Anderson. Now Stelnov over. And he gets help from Bekov, who feeds it out to Homatov, number 15. Coffey spun him around. Roharski looks the other way as he figures Homatov took a dive. And it's Hartsburg shooting it in. And he did. Back to get it, number 29, Igor Kravchuk, out to Bekov. Bekov trying to get around Hartsburg. Bekov to Homatov. And Canada come back. Here's Gretzky. Gretzky trying to get Coffey going the other way. Now a break for the Soviets. 2-on-1. Bekov to Humalap, and a stick save by Fuhr on the 2-on-1. Now Lemieux back on. Another shot by the Soviets. You're the save, and here's Lemieux with Gretzky. 2-on-1 break. Big save, Milnikoff on Gretzky. As that time it was Lemieux putting in number 99, and Milnikoff slid across to make the save. Canada on a power play. 35 seconds left in the Soviets' penalty. Now Semyonov firing it in. Back to get it is Bork for Canada. Ramo Bork flips it in. Fetisov back after it. That's pocket into Korchuk. Here's Gretzky. Centered, Lemieux in front. Couldn't get the shot off. Gretzky again. To Bork. Over to Murphy. Into Gretzky. Back to Bork. Into Lemieux. Across to Murphy. Shooting. Blocked at the defense on a dive across by Fetisov.
Oh, they moved it around again and around and around, and they did set up a play. But a defenseman was the one who took the shot. Fetisov making the save on Murphy. Very nicely set up. There's Rick Tocchet. Big check inside the zone started this. That's Lemieux. Across. Here's Murphy. And the shot blocked by Fetisov, who was down with plenty of time to block that shot. If been a Gretzky or a Lemieux, you might have seen a quicker trigger.
Now Larionov is out of the penalty box, so the Soviets are at full strength. 5:23 left in the second period. Canada 4, Soviets 4. Here's Messier on a faceoff. Gets it to Gartner. He and Fetisov battle. And now Krutov to Makarov. Back to Krutov. Upended, and Crossman is there for Canada. Trying to clear it up. Makarov held it in. Over to Konstantinov. His shot blocked. Messier couldn't get it out. Here's Makarov. Back on the point to Fetisov. Centers to Krutov. Shot. Right on and pure. Made the save and held on.
Well, we have had a few dives in this game. Here is one of them. This is the one we mentioned. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Greg Louganis.
Omotov was the player who Koharski just looked at him and looked the other way.
I'll tell you something. Both sides are doing a fair amount of that tonight.
Soviets, Fetisov at the point for the faceoff. Closing in, Murphy dives to poke it away. Makarov, back of the net, gets it back from Fetisov. Makarov for Krutov. He's checked, Canada clear it. Soviets hold it in, but now carried out by Murphy.
There's an old line, Dan, that says when you hit a guy, you create a turnover. Sutter behind the net was the reason for this play. Here comes the puck into the zone. The shot is going to go off the goaltender, Milnikoff. Here comes Sutter. He's going to take the puck away. Creates the turnover. Hawerchuk, one chance. Comes back out to him. Second shot into the net. And Canada, for the first time, has the lead. His fourth goal of the tournament. Dale Hawerchuk. But the key again was the slugging along the board. It's almost like we're watching that big Soviet game in 1984. These sluggers are doing the job at the key time. Tocchet, Sutter. Take a look at the names that are cropping up on the score sheet here tonight. Look at the turnover. Here it comes. There's the big check. And the puck is turned over.
The scoring play, Hawerchuk from Murphy and Kropp. 15:32 the time.
Sutter does not get a point, but I'll tell you, that guy right there loves him.
Dale Hawerchuk from the Winnipeg Jets has just given Canada the lead for the first time tonight.
Isn't it amazing? We've seen so much of Lemieux and Gretzky, and suddenly, in a big game like this one, the grinders are out.
Now a Team Canada line of Gilmore, Tocchet, and Goulet. 4:28 left in the second period. 5-4 Canada.
Isn't it amazing the difference in this hockey game compared to games 1 and 2 of this series? The artistry isn't there. The excitement certainly is.
And a lot of thumping in this game, more than in games 1 and 2. Bourque back after the get the puck for Canada. Passing it to Murphy. Murphy to Gilmore. Too far for him. Gilmore racing in. Got around to the boards. Here's Tocchet. Back of the net. But intercepted by Kravchuk and cleared. And the Soviets work it to Homatop at center ice. Bourque took him out of the play. And Gilmore knocked it to Goulet. And now a high sticking penalty coming up to Bourque as he took Homatop out of the play. And Canada will be shorthanded as Bourque goes to the penalty box.
Canada's penalty number 7,
Don Koharski calling him as he sees him, and he has seen Ray Bourque high stick somebody, and he has called him for it. I wouldn't change a thing the way Team Canada is playing right now. They're getting the odd penalty, but they're also playing the type of hockey when things have gone sour in the overall playmaking of Gretzky and Lemieux is going to win for them.
Soviets on a power play with a forward line of Semyonov, Lomakin, and Semak. White men will be Gusarov and Fedotov. Canada with Gilmore up to win the faceoff. He and Anderson are the penalty killers with Crossman and Rochefort on defense. Gilmore broke the play up. Now Gusarov dropping it back to Fedotov. To Gusarov. Alexei Gusarov up the middle for Semyonov, number 30. Semak centered and Anderson there to tip it away. And then Gilmore cleared it away for Canada. Fedotov, number 14 for the Soviets. A minute 30 left in Canada's penalty. Now Gusarov to Fedotov. Back to Gusarov. Firing to Semyonov. Into Lomakin. Dropped it to Semak, but Gartner intercepts. And Gartner fires it away.
Notice how they're picking up the men right at the line. Something Brad brought up. They're letting the defense back in. They're not doing it anymore.
Here's Larionov as the Soviets change on the fly, leaving it for Gusarov. Now to Makarov. Gartner checked him. Makarov tries again to Krutov. Krutov leaving it for Larionov. He drops it back, and Fetisov couldn't hold it in. 42 seconds left in the penalty. Fetisov to Kasatonov. Kasatonov, number 7. Leaving it for Krutov over to Makarov. Now to Fetisov. Into Larionov. To Fetisov to Kasatonov. Moves in deeper, and Murphy took it away from him, and Murphy clears it out of there. 12 seconds left in the penalty. Excellent penalty killing here by Canada. Larionov now trying. Leaves it for Fetisov. Fetisov flipping it in. Crossman there to poke it away. Gretzky flips it. Anderson able to carry it out, and Gretzky now takes a pass at center ice, breaking in with Bourque. Gretzky shoots one, and that one off a stick high and wide. And back the other way, Makarov. Game's at full sprint now as Bourque has served his penalty. Here's Brian Propp. Fans on it as he went to clear it. Now drops it to Rochefort. Over to Crossman. Off the boards to Gretzky. Gretzky dumps it in. But he's out there for the Soviets. Now cleared out of there by Semyonov. And Kubalev flips it ahead for Priyakin. He gets knocked down by Bourque. And Bourque will get another penalty here. Mario Lemieux arguing about the penalty call, but it's a hooking penalty against Bourque.
Well, Ray Bourque up against the boards. In this case, I'd give the penalty. They may have put a little mustard on it, but he also got hooked. Last time Bork was off, no shots on goal by the Soviets, so they did a terrific job on the penalty killing last time out, but you can play with fire too. Want to keep doing this.
Just a minute 9 left in the period, so Canada will, if they can get through this first part, the first minute 9 will have a break.
And the penalty killers, who did a pretty good job last time for the most part. Gardner out there. And Rochefort will be back at the blue line.
Doug Gilmour is going to take the face-off against Beckhoff.
Who's shown us some pretty good skills in terms of face-offs this tournament.
Soviets have 4 men inside the blue line. Homatop is away off on the right wing boards, but Gilmour wins the draw, and the Soviets have to go back and regroup. Here's Kravchuk, number 29, giving it to number 15, Homatop. We're in the final minute of period 1. Kamensky moving in. Gardner takes him out. Fewer out of the net to clear it. Homatop losing it. Gilmour trying to knock it out of there, and did with a volleyball type move, hitting it with his hand, and he hit it up into the Soviets bench. So the faceoff will be back inside the blue line.
Off the Soviet player's head, I think, and so the faceoff will come back inside the Team Canada zone. There's Gilmour. There's some of the players that have really noticeably improved their game as the finals have come on. Gilmour and Brian Propp is very interesting. The overtime period the other night and this game playing very, very well.
Now Messier comes out to replace Gardner, so Messier and Gilmour will be the penalty killers. Now Gardner comes back. And they're going to take Gilmour out of there and leave Gardner and Messier up front.
This is a Team Canada home game, by the way. They have the last change, or whatever it's worth.
Beckhoff against Messier. 47 seconds left in the period. Soviets on a power play. And they get it to Stelnov, who moves in from the point. Shot it around. Homatop trying to center one. Gardner there to clear it away. Kravchuk, number 29, back to pick it up. Kravchuk was supposed to be out for this series with a knee ligament problem, but he's in there tonight. He feeds it to Kamensky. Into Homatop. Rochefort ties him up. Homatop gets loose. Gardner hacks away at him. Now Beckhoff to Kravchuk. Shot right on. Kamensky after the rebound. Kravchuk a drive, and that's just wide. And Messier with 8 seconds left clears it out of there. Soviets have to go back. Kravchuk with 2 seconds left clears it up. Second period is over. A good one for Canada as they come off the ropes and take the lead after 40 minutes.
And the Soviet Union are going to play the first 52 seconds of the third period with a manpower advantage.
Here we go at the third period. Hold on to your hat. Canada clear it out as Crossman shot it up on the boards, and it goes over the glass into the penalty box area.
Nearly decapitated Bork sitting there.
Face-off will be about 10 feet inside the Team Canada blue line. Messier and Gardner up front. Rochefort and Crossman on defense. The green unit for the Soviets. Kurutov, Makarov, and Larionov up front. Fetisov and Kasatonov the point men.
How'd you like the job, Dan, of selecting the outstanding player for Canada in this game?
Or in this tournament. Puck cleared down the ice. Kasatonov back to pick it up. Soviets with the man advantage. Up the middle to Kurutov. Now to Larionov. Leaves for Makarov. Makarov poked checked by Crossman, and then Gardner got it to the line, but not out. Now Messier does knock it out of there. And Kasatonov with 20 seconds left in the penalty. Over to Larionov. Leaving for Kasatonov. Crossman picks it off and cleared it out. Fetisov to Larionov. 5 seconds left in the penalty. Larionov firing it around. Now Bork is back on. Here's Fetisov, and a poor pass has to be covered up on by Kasatonov, who gives it to Larionov. Larionov to Makarov. He cuts in. Now around Coffey. Got it in front. Viewer the save. Still loose. Whack at it. Just wide of the net. And Gretzky is back to get it for Canada. Look at Gretzky carry out. Hook check by Grutta. Covering up on the play is Murphy. Murphy into Lemieux, offside at the Soviet blue line.
Well, this is what it's like to be a fan in Hamilton, cheering Team Canada onto what they hope will be a victory.
Howard, Chuck, Goulet, and Tocchet for Canada. Bourque and Murphy on defense. Dumped in by Canada. Howard Chuck into the corner. Gets help from Tocchet to Howard Chuck to Goulet, but he couldn't handle a pass. And back comes Molotov, number 15, with Bekov. And it's broken up by Murphy and cleared away. Number 29, Igor Kravchuk back after it. He quickly fired it out. Goulet carried back in with a couple of teammates already in the Soviet zone, and it's called an offside.
Well, Michel Goulet of the Quebec Nordiques, assistant 50-goal scorer in the National Hockey League. And he'll be out there playing on a line with Gilmore and Sutter at this particular time, and now they've called him up. We're going to try a new combination that has Howard Chuck out there.
Semyonov on the face-off against Sutter. Canada taking it. Now Murphy carries in. Firing it in. Gusarov back to get it. The Samak, number 18, he just tipped it ahead to Semyonov. Howard Chuck checked him. And Murphy firing it across to Bourque. Bourque for Canada. Dumping it in. Fedotov there with Howard Chuck into check it. Now Samak back to get it. Pocket ran into Gusarov and knocked him for a loop. Soviets clear it out of there. Trying to rule if Canada could have played it. There's no icing. Bourque back after it. Bourque to Gretzky. Leaving it for Bourque. Up to Tocchet. Into center ice to Brent Sutter, who fired it in. Milnikov making a save, and Gusarov back to get him. Leaves it there. Fetisov loses. Lemieux to Gretzky. Here's Gretzky. Out in front, backhander. That hit Lemieux. Drop after the puck. Now Gretzky. Centered. Here's Coffey in and goal. Milnikov robs Coffey on another great setup by Gretzky. Back comes Perbukin, or Priakin it is. His shot. And a stick save by Muir. Mario Lemieux cleared it, not out. But then Coffey picks it up. Has Gretzky and Lemieux with him. Leaving for Gretzky. Gretzky across to Murphy. Shot it just wide. As Murphy came in aggressively from the point. Now it's Hartsburg. Into Brian. Drop. Up high off the glass with that drive. Canada changing on the fly. Here's a clearing pass to Gretzky. And they whistle that down and outside at the Soviet blue line.
Well, Team Canada seeming to play with a lot more confidence here in the third period. More in control of things, but that's the kind of thing that happens. There's a great play to Coffey from Gretzky. And a pretty good play by the goaltender. Milnikov stuck right with him.
Sergei Milnikov, his team trailing 5-4. And he may have held them in there with that save. Puck shot in by Canada. Anderson into the boards. Comes to the point, into the corner to Gartner. Gartner trying to get it to Anderson. Knocked away by Kravchuk, and he carries to center. Igor Kravchuk, number 29. Cuts in, shot blocked, rebound. Krutov put it over top of the net. Here's Anderson. He loses to Makarov. Centered to Larionov. Rossmore blocked the shot. And the rebound is poked wide. Crossman for Canada. Krutov standing right in front of the net, keeping an eye on him. But Crossman beats Gartner. And Gartner slides the puck into the Soviet zone. Delnov, number 4, back together. They head to Larionov. Into Kamensky, but broken up by Bourque and shot to center, and Patrick tips it into the Soviet zone. Gusarov back after it. Cleared it, knocked down by Murphy. And now the Soviets with Fedotov. Gilmore checked in. Gilmore giving it to Patrick. Now ahead to Goulet. Goulet against Gusarov, and he whips the shot high up into the crowd.
4 minutes, 53 seconds gone. There's Valery Kamensky. He was great at Rendezvous. He scored only 13 goals in 37 games in the Soviet Union last year. But he made his year in Quebec City in the second game of Rendezvous when he scored those two important goals, and then that great goal to tie up the game the other night against Team Canada. Sent it into overtime. He has just been a phenomenal player. Keep saying he's not strong enough, but he's got the great shot. As a matter of fact, I asked Grant Fuhr who the toughest shot to deal with on this team. He says Kamensky. Well, his teammates say that Krutov's got the quickest release. The most dangerous shot, says Fuhr, is Kamensky's.
Here are the Soviets. Semyonov, number 30, breaking down. Semyonov is checked. And Hartsburg chops the puck out of there. Soviets go back and get it. Kasatonov, number 7. To Lomakin. He leaves it. Gusarov to Samak. Now to Lomakin. Leaving it for Samak right through his skates, and Rick Tocchet comes back for Canada. Tocchet dumping it in. All the way back out to center. Hartsburg waits for his team to get onside and drills it back in. Semyonov, number 30 for the Soviets. Gretzky into forecheck, gives it to Fetisov. Now to Kumalet, number 8. Gretzky checked into Lemieux. Lemieux over to Bork, who pinches in. Back of the net to Gretzky. Back to Bork, and Ryakin had it. Gretzky held it into Murphy. Into Lemieux, shoots. Big save again by Mildakov. That time on Lemieux. Dolan center to Gretzky. Backhander shot it wide. Oh, Gretzky with a brilliant opportunity. Here's Imalat moving back. Long shot, and Fuhr stopped that. Now Gretzky to Brian Propp. And Propp fires it in. Mildakov didn't appear to see it. Here's Gretzky. In behind the net. Chopped away by Nemchinov. Held in by Anderson to Gretzky behind the goal. Looking for Lemieux. Lemieux well covered. Gretzky will come out himself. Turn, shoots. Melnikov got a stick on it. Here's Anderson. They have Lemieux tied up in knots at the side of the net. Here's Makarov. Tied up by Gretzky, but gets away. Now Nemchinov, number 12. Leaves Kurutov. Gretzky trying to steal it. Here's Gusarov. Firing it in. Rosman for Canada. Back he comes with Messier. Messier shoots from a bad angle. Mildakov the save. Bodies fly everywhere. And we got to stop it.
People are always amazed at Wayne Gretzky's staying power. He just had a shift that lasted longer than 2 minutes. And yet at the tag end of it, he was still doing things. Just missed the net, and right there was Mario Lemieux. He was going to steer that in with his hand if he could have. That was up on edge. The reason Gretzky didn't get good wood on it or a good angle on it. Well, what a long shift he had, and yet at the end he still had the power and the stamina to make a good scoring play.
That was Gartner from the faceoff that Melnikov stopped, and Bork beats Messier. Bekov tying him up. Messier beating Gartner. Pass behind Goulet. Homatov starts back, got it into the zone, still has it. Homatov to Gusarov. Poke check by Bork. Homatov to Kamensky. Bork takes him out. Fuhr knocking it back of the net, and Murphy has it for Canada. He goes out the other way and gives it to Bork. And Bork flips it to center. Fedotov back after it. Gartner right on top of him. Gartner up, checking aggressively. Here's Gusarov. Now to Fedotov. In comes Howardchuk. Fedotov beats Kamensky. Now to Bekov. Messier took him out. Howardchuk getting it in. Soviets. Bekov trying to work it free, and Lomakin drops it back. Gusarov under pressure as Canada coming in to try and forecheck and rush the Soviets, and it's been working. Here's Semyonov breaking up. Long shot. Fuhr a glove save on that. Clears it up for the boards. Canada with a flip pass to Sutter that hopped over his stick. Semyonov trying to come back, and Coffey has it for Canada. Into center ice. Here's Sutter to Tocchet, and they whistle it down on a two-line offside pass.
look at the point system or situation as far as this game is concerned. The top point man is Larry Murphy. He has a goal and 2 assists. Tocchet with a goal and an assist. So has Prop, and so has Sutter and Howard-Chuck. Not the names you would expect.
Here's Coffey for Canada. Canada leading 5-4. 11 minutes, 10 seconds left in regulation time. Here's Lemieux to Prop behind the net. Prop couldn't get it centered, and Kasatonov beating one out too far ahead for Humalev. Going back to Sparksburg, and they wave the icing off to the Soviet linesman. Here's Humalev into the corner. Canada come up with it, and Prop is able to chip it out of there. And Fetisov goes back. Canada making a wholesale change on the fly. Puck cleared out. Here's Larionov. Larionov moving in, taken out of the play by Crossman. Makarov with the puck. He gets tied up. Now shot around on the boards. Crossman for Canada, able to scoop it out of there. And Makarov goes hustling back for the Soviets. Messier right on his tail. 2 players collide. Here's Makarov to Karutov. Now Makarov into the corner. Centered. And Messier chips it into center ice. Delno back after it for the Soviets. And Gusarov takes over to Larionov. Larionov flipping it into center ice. The Crossman for Canada to Normand Rochefort. Now to Gartner. He just lets it go, and here comes Doug Gilmour for Canada. Leaves it for Gartner with a drive off the glass. Bourque behind the net to Gartner. Gartner trying to center. Flips it into the corner for Gilmour. He and Fedotov battle for it. Soviets come up with it, and Gusarov cleared it into center ice. 9.5 minutes left in the third period. Here's Canada with Goulet putting himself offside as he carried it in behind him.
The hardest thing in the world is to get off to a bad start and then try to get your game right. Doug Crossman has recovered beautifully after he had his early problems in this game. That's known as playing the man. And Larionov flattened on the play.
Here's Canada with a line of Gilmour, Lemieux, and Goulet. Canada with a 5-4 lead. 9:20 left in regulation time. Back off for the Soviets with a line, but Bourque breaks it up to Lemieux. Lemieux to Gilmour. Gilmour flipping it through. Fetisov back to get it. Now Fetisov can't get away from Lemieux. Here's Bekov trying. Stick handling neatly. Bekov moving it in, broken up in the defense, and Goulet clears to Lemieux. Lemieux couldn't get around Fetisov. And now covering up for Canada. Bourque to Goulet. Into Lemieux. Lemieux cutting in, shoots one. Off the skate and just wide. Goulet to Lemieux. Lemieux back to Goulet. Goulet put it through the crease. Here's Lemieux. To Goulet. Sutter alone in front, but he couldn't get it to him. Now Sutter comes in. Canada forced the face-off in the Soviet zone. 8:32 left in regulation time.
Now the chef Goulet in deep forechecking. And again, it produced a flurry around the net. The game is being played for a good part down in the Soviet end. So the old adage, a good defense is a good offense. Canada, again, I can't stress how confidently Canada is playing here in the third period.
They have outshot the Soviets here in the third period, 10-4. Now, Kravchuk and Sutter from the faceoff tie each other up. And we'll get another faceoff deep in the Soviet zone.
Brent Sutter in this game has a goal and an assist. By the way, if you're Gretzky Lemieux fans, each has a point, each an assist. They've not been as dominant in this game on the score sheet, although they've certainly had their opportunities and have handled the puck a lot.
Both Gretzky and Lemieux have missed great chances here in this third period. Here's Tocchet knocking it off the board. Semyonov checked by Sutter. He kicks it back to Coffey, who cleared it to center. Now Lomakin. He's bumped off the puck by Howard-Chuck. Tocchet to Howard-Chuck, who fires it in. Tocchet chipping it into Sutter. Sutter and Semyonov battle for it. Look at Tocchet drawing behind the net to Sutter. Trying to get it in front. Lomakin is there. Now to Semyonov, number 30. Over to Semak. Moving in. Trying to get up to Lomakin. Howard Chuck had him tied up. Now center. The shot. They score! Semak ties this game up with 7:39 left in regulation time.
So what else is new? Semak getting a puck right in front of the net. Semyonov being tied up by Coffey, and they kind of a collision there as Howard Chuck went with them. And the puck just rolled past Fjord. Semak closing in tight. Puck bouncing off the boards. Everybody giving chase, and that little pick allowed the forward to scoot behind the net and slip it back out in front. And Semak has scored. He was the one who scored the game winner in overtime in game 1 of this series. So here we are, 7:39 left in regulation time, a 5-5 tie.
Here is Gardner dropping it to Rochford, to Crossman. Back for Rochford. Into center ice off of Anderson's skate. Now Anderson shooting it in. And Fedotov goes back to pick it up. Fedotov trying to clear it. Anderson held it in. To Messier. Shot away by the Soviets. And here comes number 8, Yuri Humalek. Moving in. Trying to go around Rochford. Humalek into the corner. Messier for Canada. Out to Mike Gardner. Gardner checked by Fedotov. Gets it again, but then the play is offside at the Soviet blue line. 7:03 left in regulation time. 5-5, Canada and the Soviets. Canada dumping it in, but Tisov back to get it. Tocchet knocked him down, but he moved it to Larionov, and here come the Soviets. 3-on-3 break to Makarov. Makarov cutting in. Makarov right in, backhander wide. And Gilmore quickly moves it to Sutter. Sutter to center ice to Tocchet, but Tisov knocks it down. But Tisov in across the line, tipped back out by Sutter. And Canada with Tocchet clearing down the ice. Here's number 2, Fetisov. Flipping it out, Murphy knocks it down to Gretzky. Gretzky cutting in. Jack Lemieux held it in, but now Bekov back for the Soviets. They head to Kamensky. Kamensky trying to cut through. Hartsburg tied him up. Now Bekov behind the net. Gretzky has him in tow, and Lemieux comes up with it. Out to Gretzky. Gretzky with Crump and Coffey to center. Pass to Coffey. Breaking in. Coffey couldn't get around the defenseman. Delnov, and the Soviets clear it out of there. Muir lets it go for Hartsburg to touch. That's icing. 5:45 left in regulation.
Glenn Anderson, who did most of the hitting in the first period in this game. The rest of his teammates weren't doing a heck of a lot of it. They have come along.
Gretzky, Lemieux, and Crump for Canada. Semyonov against Gretzky on the faceoff.
Nico says you've got to put your stick down.
And Gretzky is saying Semyonov won't cooperate. Now they do drop the puck. Knocked back of a Soviet goal. Prop into the corner with Gusarov. Gusarov took him up. Now Lemieux getting it loose on the boards. Lemieux centered to Gretzky. Burns couldn't get the shot off as Semyonov had him tied up. Now Murphy at the point. Shoots deflected by Crawford just wide. Gusarov then able to clear it. And Murphy chases back. Semak right behind him. Semak stealing it, but Bourque was there to cover up. Bourque for Canada. 5:12 left in regulation time. Here is Bourque. Feeding it to Goulet. Shot wide. Bourque in to get the rebound. Back of the net to Goulet. Out in front to Lemieux. He's too well shut. And the Soviets clear it and get it to center ice. Bourque back after it in a hurry. There is Nemchinov shooting it in. Bourque gets it to Hartsburg, to Gretzky, who deflects it in. And Lemieux gets up and the fans holler about that. Dasatonov out into center ice for Kumalek, number 8. Into Priaka. Hartsburg took him up. Coffey back for Canada. 4:28 left in regulation time. Coffey to Howard Chuck. Cutting in. Howard Chuck shoots off the blocker of Milnikov and then hit by a high stick. and that stops play.
Well, they hit Howard Chuck on the fly in full stride through center ice. The defenseman standing still on the play. And Howard Chuck just barreled right in over the line. Got a good shot away. Milnikov, here he comes. This is the bag into that rush, and he just ducked past the defense. The speed does it. And they fired the shot off the blocker of Milnikov.
But was
knocked out of midair.
a high stick, and the result is the faceoff will come all the way back down into the Team Canada end of the ring. 4:20 left in regulation time.
Absolute sellout here at the Copps Coliseum in Hamilton. 17,037. I think that's a little bit more than a sellout. There's the score, and we have. I mean, it had to be like this, Dan. We simply.
Well, you knew the score was going to be 6-5 for somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
And the time in the bottom left-hand corner, 4:18 left in regulation play. Here's Rochefort to Messier to Anderson, gets it to center. Anderson to Gartner. Gartner cutting in, but offside on the far side was Gartner. And the face-off will be at the Soviet line.
Most of what you're seeing out there now, unpenalized, is the restraining type fouls. And I don't think that Don Koharski, being an NHL official, is going to call too much of that stuff. That would be something pretty gross and indecent for him to make a call now.
Here's Messier to Gartner. Crossman firing it in. Milnikov back to get it. Cleared it off onto the wing. Soviets clear it out, and here's Karutov. Soviets with Karutov cutting in on the left side. Tied up. Now centered. Man wide open, but elected to pass. And that allowed Crossman to recover and clear it out of there. Milnikov out of the net to feed it up to Makarov. And that's a two-line pass.
Makarov is, I think, the best Soviet here tonight. He has been overshadowed somewhat by his line mate, Vladimir Karutov, but tonight he is just dancing out there. He's doing so many things, and he is very, very strong and dominant in this game. Boy, the signs in this building tonight, some of them are great.
3:41 left in regulation time. Gretzky, Propp, and Lemieux. Copy gets it to Hartsburg. Shoots from the point. Propp tried for the deflection, but it took off on him and went up into the crowd.
And because he steered it up there, the faceoff is going to be outside the blue line. I think that Viktor Tikhonov has aged a little bit in this tournament.
This week.
So have we. We're not going to get overtime again, are we, Dan?
Good chance of it.
Yeah.
3:36 left. Well, it's almost like you're playing sudden death overtime now.
That's right.
3:36 left in regulation time. Canada win the faceoff, drop it into their own zone, and Fuhr sets it up for Paul Coffey. Off the boards to Propp. Propp back to Coffey, tipped out, but shot right back in by Fedotov, and quickly cleared out by Canada again. Now Homatov shooting it in. Coffey for Canada. Off the boards for Hartsburg. Four-man rush by Canada. Hartsburg to Propp. Shoots. Milnikov a save. Hartsburg was going for the net, but Milnikov held onto it.
Had the right idea. Feeling is that Milnikov doesn't hold the puck very well, although he certainly did there, taking it off the shaft of his stick and then holding it in his glove. Throw it in, look for the rebound, and here's a good quick shot by Propp. Let it go. And they said the right idea with Hartsburg going for the net, but Milnikov hung onto the rebound. Brian Propp right down there next to Mario Lemieux. Playing a good game tonight.
Here's Sutter with Puckett and Howard Chuck for Canada. Semyonov on the faceoff against Brent Sutter. Sutter gets the draw to Murphy. Murphy shoots. That's blocked. And then Seaman slid it out of there with his hand. Once Canada gets possession, then it's waved off. Murphy fires it back in. Bubalev in to get it. Sutter behind the net. Tied up by Bubalev. Look at Sutter battle. To Howard Chuck. Back on the point for. Shoots up high. into the crowd, and we're down to 2:36 left in overtime, or in regulation time. Think I'm thinking of overtime?
Yeah. We've seen so much of it lately. Jean Perron in the foreground, co-coach with Lars Denis, or at least Keenan, Mike Keenan. 5-5, 2:36 left in regulation time. And they're going to call a timeout. There you see the signal from Victor Tikhonov. He has called a timeout here. That'll give, but I don't, you know, when you see Gretzky out there in the middle of a shift anyway, I don't know whether I want to make a timeout call at that particular time. Give those guys a little extra rest.
Well, he must be thinking of Makarov and Kurutov and his key people.
Yeah.
But it does give some of the Team Canada aces a chance to catch their breath. 2:36 left in regulation time.
Right in the foreground there, you see Makarov. Now, Keenan has got something going down there. He wants to flood one side of the ice. Move everybody up one side. See what happens. Off the face-off.
Gretzky, Lemieux, and Messier will be up front. Now at the last second, he changes his mind.
Well, when you look at this 10 years from now and you say 6-5, 6-5, 6-5, you say, boy, those must have been pretty awful defensive games. I'd have to put it the other way and say they were terrific offensive games.
Here's Messier. He's out there with Gartner and Anderson. Soviets. Hasatonov coming up with it to Kurutov. 2.5 left in regulation time. Good defensive play by Rochefort to break it up. Now Fetisov in center ice. Fetisov loses to Gartner. Gartner cuts behind the net. Gets it in front. Anderson, a shot. Loose puck coming to Messier. He fired it around. Here's Anderson again, but tipped away by Hasatonov. Soviets try and clear it. Messier held it in. Now Larionov breaking out to Makarov, and Rochefort is there for Canada. Takes Makarov out, and Crossman takes over. Crossman flipping it out. 1:50 left in regulation time. Robchuk shoots it to center. Canada taking control with Murphy. Cross ice to Coffey. Coffey scooping it in. Hustling in after it is Gretzky. And the Soviet player got there first, so it's icing against Canada. 1:36 left in regulation time. And a face-off deep in Team Canada's end of the ring.
Well, now it's hold on time. It'll be Gretzky will take the draw down there. And they're going to send... This was a 3-on-1 break. Murphy, the wheelman. Murphy, Gretzky, Lemieux, and he was allowed to get right in close and then picking the corner on the glove side. Go to the glove side high, the scouting report. But you don't give Lemieux that kind of room. But hold it before the celebration gets too far into the night here. We've got 1:26 left, and this is a great hockey team that Team Canada is playing, and they can come back.
What did I say earlier about Gretzky loading the gun and Lemieux pulling the trigger?
Yes,
there it was in living color.
Tikhonov was down talking to... And, you know, this is a common sight. A goal is given up, and he turns around. Rather than rallying his guys, he starts giving people heck. And some poor defenseman is really catching it in the ear right now.
They are a little excited here in Hamilton.
see it again. Number 8 is Murphy, but it's Gretzky. Murphy's the decoy. And there's the shot. Right out of position and unable to make a play with Stelnov.
Mario Lemieux's 11th goal of this tournament. Canada takes a 6-5 lead with 1:26 remaining.
Look at Gretzky now. He's saying, look, we've got a minute 26 left. To his teammate, Glenn Anderson. I'll hold him. That's what he's saying, because they had scored in the final minute before.
Lemieux from Gretzky, 18:34 the time. Lemieux's 11th goal. They are standing at the Topps Coliseum. Now,
Really unbelievable.
Now the Soviets with 1:26 left. And Chinov against Messier. And they'll toss Messier out of there.
Nobody's sitting in this place.
Now Messier allowed to take the face-off against Chinov. Gardner breaks away for Canada with Anderson 2-on-1. Pass to Anderson and a goal. Can't get it in front. It hits Gardner. Gardner with Milnikov caught out of there. Couldn't center. Now Soviets Gusarov around on the boards to Fedotov. Here they come to center. Boomalat number 8. Long shot. You're scared to the side. Priyakin. Bumped by Rochefort. 1 minute left in regulation time. Soviets trying to center. Rossman there to clear it. And Fedotov has to go back after it. With now 50 seconds left. 6-5, Canada leading. Both teams changing on the fly. Konstantinov to Lariana. He's up-ended. Fetisov shoots it in. Murphy there to clear it. Fetisov holding it in. Shot blocked. Fetisov again. Blocked again, this time by Messier. And Messier flips it to center. 30 seconds left. Here's Konstantinov. To Fetisov, broken up by Messier. Now fired in by the Soviets. Coffey back with 20 seconds left. And Canada cleared out of there. 15 seconds left. Konstantinov back to get it. To Kurutov. Messier breaks it up. Messier with 7 seconds left. Now Makarov. 4 seconds left. Team Canada wins 6-5. And look at that celebration. Third period, 15-6. They outshot them every period. In the game, 46-23, the total shots in favor of Canada. And Team Canada wins 6-5 on Mario Lemieux's 11th goal.